So we're the Charged Cats. I'm Teresa.
I'm Angel.
I'm Cody.
And Steve.
I'm Claudia.
And the topic that we're going to talk about today is, should college athletes be paid? So I'm just going to start off with a simple question. How many of you guys are sports fans? Okay, so, and even if you're not, you should know that many NCAA athletes, they generate a ton of revenue and money for the prospective schools. It puts the schools on the map, and they also just have prospective students, just something for them to look forward to and to attract them to their schools, especially their families. And through this, there's a lot of publicity and popularity that is generated through the fans. So it's kind of like a culture. It's kind of hard to tell from UMass Dartmouth because we're a D3 school, but from especially Division I schools and Division II schools, their games are just crazy and like everyone attends them. It's almost like a culture kind of that you just attend them, and even it doesn't have to be students, it's like families, alumni, and just like the general public, whoever's like a sports fan. So through the images, as an example, for men's basketball, tops the 32 million for a 10th straight year in attendance for the basketball team. And then also for football, there is a steady growth rate for the last like 10 years. And just in 2015, there was 49 million fans that attended the games. So, and also another thing that contributes to the popularity of NCAA sports is like the phenomenon of like brackets. So a lot of people know about like March Madness and like fantasy football, even though that's more for NFL, but they have similar ones for college football. And so this generates a lot of popularity. It's kind of just like inviting like fans and just the general public to like contribute and to like have something to do while watching these games. And so just for March Madness itself, it generated 14.6 million people that played and participated in the brackets for March Madness. And now I'm going to pass it off to Cody to talk about college athletes.
Steve.
Oh, Steve, sorry.
Well, like Teresa said before, the athletes are the ones that are bringing in all the fans and the people that are paying the money. So, well, if you heard the Lonzo brothers, that they're going to go to UCLA. Lonzo, the oldest one on the left, he's the star guard, and he's going to go in the NBA draft. Only 1 year at UCLA, but Lamar Jackson, the quarterback from Louisville, they bring in just tons of fans, like Teresa said, and just lots of jersey sales. But on the next slide, most of the money comes from the broadcasting networks, and so like the tournament, the March Madness tournament brings in $7 million. How much that says $770 million in TV deals alone, and CBS bringing in $10.8 billion a year for just basketball alone, and ESPN football $5.6 billion a year alone. And I'll pass it off to Claudia, who will talk about our survey results.
College athletics has brought a great amount of attention and has generated considerable high revenue. However, the actual number that each student athlete has made is not mentioned frequently, which is to say that we appreciate their work without noticing how much time and effort they have put into the sports. Our group has done a survey on a random student sample scale to test how much time and effort these students should be devoted to their respective sports. Around 70% of the respondents agree that student athletes should be paid according to their performance, and it would be unfair if we pay each team member the same amount. And around 80% of the respondents agree that, and around 80% of the respondents agreed. And around 80% of students, and around 80% of the respondents said that the sports team should be given the money to pay their athletes, and it should be around 200 to 600 weekly pay.
Alright, so after we conducted our survey, went around and looked for some bigger surveys to try to get a broader scale. So I found a survey that was conducted of 21,000 current student athletes from Division I, II, and III schools. They were ranging from 627 different schools. Among those 21,000, 1,600 football players and 471 men's basketball players, and divided amongst the rest of the sports. They found that a Division I football player spends on average 45 hours a week on their sport, while only spending around 39 hours of classroom work. And even worse, a Division I baseball player spends over 40 hours a week on their sport, while only 32 hours on academics. They're called student athletes for a reason. I don't think they should be spending more time on their athletics than their schoolwork. That's what's most important. And even more sad is that two out of every 3 of them said they consider themselves more athletes than students. In our survey, we found that 50% of students said that they think college athletes spend less than 30 hours a week doing activities related to their sport, practicing games, training, travel, study hall. And we just came to the conclusion that people don't really realize how much time and effort goes into their sports every week. And I think that needs to be brought to the table so people realize that they need to be compensated for their hard work. And we started asking ourselves, is just a scholarship enough? We came to the conclusion that the average college tuition is around $25,000 a year between public and private schools. Average person takes 4 to 5 years to complete their degree, so that's $100,000. Many of the best college athletes are now leaving early after 1 or 2 years, so they're really the college is only really dishing out $50,000, at most $100,000. A draft-ready football player, someone who's eligible for the draft and drafted and has got like a projected to get drafted, is worth just under $500,000 to their university through their profits that they generate. And a draft-ready basketball player is worth just under $1.5 million to their university. So what the colleges are paying for their scholarships to their athletes is not even close to the amount that these players return to the university. And I don't know if many of you guys know this, not every player on the team is given a full scholarship or even a half scholarship. On a Division I men's basketball team, 13 scholarships are distributed throughout the team, and Division I football team, 80 scholarships are handed out through the whole, usually around a team of 90 to 100, so not every player is even given money to play. And Division III athletes are not allowed to receive any athletic scholarships, and Division II it's even more limited to the number of scholarships each team is provided. So I'm going to pass the presentation on to Angel, and he's going to talk about why coaches are allowed to be paid, or why coaches can be paid millions and athletes are paid nothing.
So I have a quick question. How many people work 44 hours a week while attending school? Anybody? Alright, so how many people will work 44 hours for free? Nobody, right? So why students? Student athletes should not receive no pennies for working all those hours, and coaches receive millions and millions of bonuses. College football coaches continue to see salary explosions. The average annual salary for a college football head coach at major colleges is $1.6 million, up nearly 12% over the last season, and more than 70% since 2006. Each of the coaches on Friday night Pac-12 games also have a chance for a $1 million on-field bonus. Also, coaches that win bowl games receive up to $300,000 if they win in bonuses. And we have an example right here. The University of Texas head football coach Mack Brown salary totals over $5 million. In comparison, scholarships for the entire Texas football team total just over $3 million. Clearly, the NCAA does not need the coaches to maintain an amateur status. Student athletes struggle more than people think. Just because they receive full scholarships to top schools and free housing doesn't mean they have won the lottery. And student athletes have reported that they go to bed hungry on an empty stomach due to coming out of practices late and everything being closed. Students to receive monthly stipends are required to live in condos or outside of campuses so they can receive stipends, and the amount will be probably $1,600 a month, but they have to pay over I think $1,100 on bills and everything, food, so they just stay with $500 of wine Next slide. Academic limitations. Athletes do not get the full benefits of their education due to entering the draft early or suffering major injuries. Athletes spend much less time working on schoolwork due to intense athletic schedule. Just like Cody stated, student athletes spend 44 hours or more on football activities. Athletes are required to attend tutoring after practice for an hour or two, and after tutoring, they are required to head to study hall for an hour. And athletes are forced to pick their schedule to be able to attend football. And yeah, they receive no special treatment. Each student is treated the same by professors. Next slide. So I have a perfect example right here. My friend, CJ Providence, he plays for Sacred Heart. And he has a chance to go to the NFL draft, like the other three do, and he doesn't receive anything. Lucas Ennis, he plays cornerback for BC. He's the only Division I school that doesn't receive any monthly stipends or anything, just housing and whatever the scholarship has to offer. My friend at Wisconsin, he plays cornerback, Ruben Figaro. He receives a monthly stipend just because he has to live off campus. He lives in a condo, so he has to pay bills, food bills. But after he pays all his bills, he stays with at least $400 for the month. And now I'm gonna pass it to Teresa. She's gonna talk about under the table payments.
Right, so as everyone knows, it's against NCAA regulation to pay any college student athletes. It's kind of part of their amateurism law. They're not professionals, technically, I guess is what they call it. So even though it is against regulation, there's definitely under the table payments happening. It's just, you have to think that if you're a D1 athlete and you're being publicized by so many media outlets, so many other sponsors and things are going to come up to you and offer you prizes and just everything. So it's hard not to take it. So for example, Reggie Bush, in 2005 he got his Heisman Trophy taken away because he was receiving cash prizes and lavish gifts, and he even received and accepted a rent-free house for his whole family. And then another example is in SMU in the 1970s there was this death penalty that kind of happened. It was just how for 2 years the school banned any football programs and any activities relating in football due to NCAA violations, and they had a slush fund that they called it. It was just basically a fund set aside to offer prospective athletes and their families to kind of just almost bribe them to come to their school. So that's kind of, so even though it is against regulation, all these illegal payments, and even today, there's probably many athletes that are being paid under the table. So I'm going to pass it off to Cody to talk about going pro out of high school.
So recently, many of the professional leagues have put requirements that athletes are forced to go to college for at least a couple of years. The NBA, you're forced to go to college for 1 year or play overseas. In football, you're forced to go to college for 2 years. When these athletes are being forced to go to school, they're wasting potential years to make millions of dollars, and they're giving up prime years of their sports careers. They're also risking injury before they can make any money at all. Just some facts. 44 NBA players have been drafted directly out of high school. 3 have been drafted first overall. 2 have become rookies of the year. And honestly, how much does 1 year make of a difference for a 20-year-old to a 21-year-old? Most of these men are fully developed already, and if they go directly to the pros, they're playing with the best athletes in the world, so they'll come up to speed much faster on the play of the game, on the speed of the game. Many NBA Hall of Famers, or soon to be Hall of Famers in the NBA, came directly out of high school. I'm sure many of you know LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, Tracy McGrady, Amari Stoudemire, and J.R. Smith have all come directly out of high school and have had long and very successful careers in the NBA. And I'm going to pass it on to Steve and Claudia to talk about solutions to our problem.
When it comes to solutions to support the student athletes, our group agreed that each student athlete should be paid a minimum half scholarship to attend college, and a 400 weekly wage. This is a reasonable requirement when you consider how much the tuition for the college has gone up. Just picking the UMass Amherst for example, if you are in-state students, the average tuition fee per year, which is around 15,000, and if you are out-of-state student, like for you, is approximately doubled, which is 31,500 per year. So we think if for an average student athlete, it would be impossible if they have to attend the practice 45 hours per week and having a part-time job and have to catch up with the academic. So we think that each student athlete should be provided their half of the scholarship and the minimum weekly salary to keep them alive during their college. And I will pass it to Steve for more solutions.
And on top of the weekly salary and the half scholarship, I think that at the end of the season they should get bonuses based on their performances in the classroom and on the field or the court, so that they're not just athletes; they're getting paid for the work in the classroom as well. And we also think that if an athlete decides to leave and go to professional NFL or NBA, and then wants to come back to the university and finish their degree, they should be given like at least partially their scholarship that they were given when they attended the school. And so if no change is made, then student athletes will be going into the real world after their college year. Sometimes they just go a year in the NCAA and then they go into the NFL and they play for a couple years and then they don't know how to be financially independent and they just waste all their money. And if I recommend watching the documentary Broke by ESPN, because it explains in detail like the inside look on financial woes of these athletes that just don't learn how to maintain their money. So if we just change this, it will make a lot better, a lot less sob stories for these athletes that come in and professionally, and be more financially independent.
Okay, so just to wrap our presentation up, we believe that college athletes should be paid. As we presented, they incur many problems, as they're working financial struggles and everything like that. So they put in so much time and effort to help publicize their school and to be a brand essentially of their school, that we believe that they should get compensated in some way, and we believe that implementing these solutions that we presented and just how they can change and affect their lives is essential for them to also just help them get through college and also perform at their best. So yeah, that's our presentation. Thanks for listening. Do you have any questions? No?
Why don't you poll the audience and ask them what they think?
What do
Okay.
you guys think? Should college athletes be paid after listening to our presentation? Raise your hands for yes. How about no? Why no? Just curious.
Well, this isn't no to that, but the bonus thing at the end of the semester or the end of the year, they shouldn't get bonuses on their classroom. We don't get bonuses on the performance we do in class, so they shouldn't either.
Yeah, but you guys don't, us, we don't go through 44 hours of straight football and keeping up with our work, so it's kind of fair.
Yeah.
And some of them don't even finish school because they get hurt or they get major injuries to the head, paralyzed.
We just figured that was a good thing so that we could get players, especially Division I athletes that are really striving to become professionals, still focus on their schoolwork and don't completely forget about it. So after if they say their NFL career is cut short, they have something they have a backup plan after they graduate. And it's not like the reward would be anything crazy. If they received over a 3.0, they would get a couple extra $100 or something like that. That was just a way for us to incorporate a more emphasis on the classroom part for these college athletes. Anything else?